Okay, this video is going to be a reproduction of the finger limit climbing or the finger strength session that we already have on the account. This time I wanted to go through and do a whole workout pretty much, and we're going to use these devices, the Moxie monitors, to talk more about interset recovery and how the climbing wall, if we use it with this intention, it's going to produce better outcomes than would be doing a repeater on a fingerboard. The only difference that we have on a repeater protocol on fingerboard is I can add intensity to the body, but I can do the same intensity change on a climbing wall by using smaller holds. But remember, the intention is to move slow and deliberate and control the directions, essentially control each hand move by grabbing on one that's closer together. But we really want to get that intention of grabbing and moving slowly. And this can also be, it needs to be customized for the individual's relative strength. So what I'm going to do today won't necessarily apply to every athlete that watches this video. For a lot of well-trained climbers, it will look similar, but for those who are newer to climbing, it won't be exactly the same. So I'm going to go ahead and talk through this the whole time between sets to kind of demonstrate what we're going for, but I'm going to use my iPad and these Moxie monitors to demonstrate what's going on. So these are really just real-time energy use monitors, more or less. Think about it as a power meter for a bike, only it doesn't measure power. It measures the use of oxygen locally in the muscles and the recovery of oxygen between sets. So what I can do is I can use these as a method to demonstrate that I'm recovered so I can begin my next set. So I'll keep showing you the screen of the iPad intermittently so we can document when I should be ready to get back on the wall and perform another set. Okay, so first I got to put these things on my arms, and the way that they are placed is like a third of the way, so I go 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. We want it about right there on the finger flexors. So for me, I'm going to slide these into my arm, and on this arm I need to make sure that they can't go over a tattoo. They have to go not on black. The signal will get all sorts of wacky. So I have one there, and then I have 4858 on the right arm. So I need to also put this one a little bit lower, right there. So the placement there is, the level of the tissue goes into the muscle and detects oxygen availability as well as oxygen expenditure. So now that I have these on my arms, I'm going to connect to this app. I can show people the VO2 Master for people that are interested in being very prescriptive and precise with their recommendations for their climbers. This is a really good option. So we're going to go to here, and we're going to turn the app on, and I'm going to add my devices right here. So I need to add a device. 1, 2, 3 should pop up. There's one of them, and then we're going to tag the other one. 1, 2, 3. That should pop up right there. So my devices are connected. I have 2 of them. Now I'm going to go to sessions, or just go to record, go to setup. I'm going to do intervals, not with any specific time frame. We're not going to document that because I want to auto-regulate as I go. Next, and now it's recording. So if I swipe here, I can actually see my SMO2 availability. So this is my left arm, this is my right arm, and we'll see over time, over the sets, how the SMO2 will be stabilized. So essentially I have enough oxygen in my working muscles when I'm standing here, and when I do a set, it will deplete. So I will use oxygen for the exercise, even though it's what we would consider anaerobic exercise. I'm always using oxygen, but the intensity of my set will be shown on the graph. So more intense sets will show a greater depletion of oxygen, so more oxygen use, more metabolic stress, and the recovery will return as well. So it should be able to return faster after an easier set, and I should use less oxygen, and the graphs will show that. So I'm kind of at a stable position now, where I'm about 65% SMO2. And there's a lot of variation between individuals in the actual percentage. So it's not a good inter-individual comparison, but more intra-individual, so between a person and themselves. So, for the sake of documenting the lower intensity sets being less stress, I did not warm up for this session. So what I expect is the session to be pretty short. One of the things that I tell clients when they do these intentional strength training sessions, they should make sure that the session ends when the finger flexors are fatigued. So the intention with the set, once I'm warmed up, is to start using smaller holds, but as soon as I can't do a set with those small holds anymore, that's the end of my set. And so I haven't done these sessions in a while because it was just the season got over. So reintroducing the stress, so my session shouldn't be more than 30 minutes, 40 minutes I would expect. So we'll do the first set, will be on bigger holds, just to make it a little bit more simple on my fingers. But I do like the idea of using climbing movements and drop knees and sometimes heel hooking and exploring the board with this drill. So it doesn't need to be so slow and controlled and boring for you. Let's do one more. Okay, so if you look at my first set, set one, the cool thing about this is this gives a timer too, so 3:14. We'll do another set when we recover, or I can just look at this timer, but more importantly is that I'm recovering. So if we look at the graphs here, you can see right here is my kind of balance set point. That exercise set took me down to here. So obviously the rate of decline was not significant because that was a pretty easy workout set. But you can tell I'm already pretty close or back to my baseline level. So one of the things that's really cool about this is it will obviously give you real-time feedback. If you have an athlete that's a competition climber and they have to do their typical competition circuit, or you're doing the mock competition, you can have them sit and rest and document when they're ready to get back on the climbing wall. If an athlete has kind of a habit of getting on the wall too quickly, certainly that's going to be, it's going to negatively influence their performance on the wall. So we can document that very easily with this individual tool. Another thing that you'll notice is that first set was pretty easy. I'm not breathing very hard, but I'm breathing harder than I did when I was originally talking. So as I do a couple sets, my baseline should elevate a little bit because my heart rate's going to be pumping harder. So it should deliver more oxygen to the local tissue. Another thing that you can do with this is you can do inter-set, so between on-the-wall set exercise, so lower extremity stuff, squats, lunges, hip thrusters, jumping jacks, things that increase your heart rate in general. That should help with recovery in some contexts, because if I just sit down and play on my phone, I'm not really forcing my heart to push my arterial blood into my capillary bed and return blood back to my heart. It's just kind of staying there. Certainly the heart's pumping a little bit, but you can increase that rate a little bit, and with a level athlete, Olympic level athlete, that matters. So I'm recovered. Let's do another set. Hopefully you can see me over here. Just to keep it interesting, I'm going to use this other side of the wall. Do another jug set. Just listening to my favorite song on the Taylor Swift album, which is Karma. So I'm singing that in my head as I do this. But because I'm not good at singing, I will not sing it to you. Whoa, that's a slippery foot. Good thing I was on a jug. All right, let's see what this one looks like. So that one's a little harder. Let's look at this one. So here, if we look at the graphs, compared to that rate of decline, that one was faster. So one thing that's really interesting on my arms, my left arm has worse capacity than my right arm does. And that's something that is a consequence of my anatomy. There's a big artery that comes out of your chest here, and it turns into the axillary artery, turns into the brachial artery, and then it splits. On my right arm, I have 2 brachial arteries and 1 on my left, which is normal. So 2 here, 1 here. And that's just a weird variation. So for me, my right arm is always better on capacity tests. So you only would know that if you have a diagnostic ultrasound, which I do, and I've looked at it. But so don't think that people have that variation if they have asymmetry, but that's why my graphs will look a little bit different. But relatively, they look pretty similar. But my right arm on that one is already recovered. My left arm not quite recovered. But that set was pretty 65% intensity range. So we'll do another one here in a second. Let's do another one now. Let's go in the middle. So there's a little bit of a pocket. So one of the things I love doing on this workout is exploring lots of different holds. And we'll do that a lot with, when we actually get into the harder sets. Wow, it was a little faster than I wanted. I didn't feel very warm-uppy. So it's really cool to see. If you just looked at my graph, you would say that one was definitely harder. So another thing that I like to teach athletes that have a good training age is I do this often enough that I don't really need a big long warm-up routine before it. So most of the warm-up routines that I prescribe for people on a fingerboard to do before this, if you're an experienced athlete, if you don't have an injury, you a lot of times can just start loading on the wall and do 2 or 3 sets, then you're okay to start trying hard. So the regularity of your loading really predicts how much of a warm-up you really need, where a lot of times we can just put our shoes on, do a couple easier things, and that one was kind of hard. And it's really easy to see the difficulty compared to the previous 2. So here's set number 3. And you can really easily see we get a pretty sharp decline on this one, but not recovering as quickly because I went faster into a deficit, right? So it's going to take me a little bit more time. So as an athlete looking for performance, then you could do something where you're going to, get some blood flow moving. So I can do some squats. And I'm doing this with my heels elevated because my hip mobility has never been good. This is just a little more comfortable. Get my heart rate up, and then we're going to boost that recovery a little bit. So I typically tell people, and I will maybe move the camera once I start doing the harder sets. I like a spray wall for this drill more than anything, simply because it has a lot more variety. And if you get in the habit of starting at new positions, it forces you into different body positions with your feet, but the intention still is to try and hang on your fingers. So I noticed with that last set, because kind of being distracted by talking, that I wasn't really doing as slow controlled loads as I typically suggest people do. So you want to make sure that for you as an athlete or your clients, if you're programming this in their plan, the intention is to hang on the holds. And I want to use the big feet simply because it gives me access to smaller holds, but then I can hold, keep my weight directly underneath my hands with those harder positions. So let's see. So that time what my graph did is it dropped, it went up higher, and then it dropped back down a little bit. So my squats, you can see, elevated it a little bit, my oxygen availability, and then it went back down to baseline levels. So let's do another set. Let's do another medium intensity set. So on my wall, I'm very familiar with it, and I have lots of kind of circuits, let's say, or habit or paths that I typically use for this kind of drill. Let's go here. Let's make this one a little harder. So that one was the first, call that a good set that we did. That one, it's very obvious that the set was longer because I spent more time in oxygen deficit. So if, again, we look at my right arm, which is a little bit more predictive, you can tell that the depressions here, that was the longest one. So I had a fast oxygen decline, not greater necessarily, but the set was longer. So I spent more time on the wall. Oh, let me show you this. The other thing that happened, this was my squatting recovery. Those two peaks above my normal resting position. Just to document that. But that set, you can tell my breathing hard now. Definitely increased after that last set. So I'll do another squat set. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. So that one, you could tell I did more foot switching than I did or foot matching, trying to keep my hands directly below those holds and find foot positions that allow you to hang one arm at a time. A lot of clients, if you're really good at heel hooking, I'm not good at heel hooking because in terms of my rotation, that's as wide as my hips go, biologically. So that's not really a skill that I have learned to employ a lot because it's not comfortable for me. So for people that do a lot of heel hooking, you can also incorporate heel hooking into this position as well, into this drill. Toe hooking, I do a lot of. Drop knees, I'll do a lot of. But I tend to stay more squared up with the wall because of my lack of flexibility or extensibility in my hips. So keep in mind that it doesn't need to be totally non-technical. It can still be semi-technical with those positions. So I'm going to turn this fan on and hope for the best. It's on the low setting. Hopefully it's not too loud. Make a guess. That sounds kind of loud though. So I'm kind of getting hot. So let's turn that off then. I'm just going to have to suffer through it. So let's look at my recovery. I'm recovered. So let's do another set. kind of hard though. I'm gonna do one over here, hopefully you can see. Okay, let's make this one a little harder. See if we can get a lung oxygen deficit. What? So there's no doubt that one was harder. I get a lot of questions about, do I want to keep the holds harder and fall or make it to the top of the wall? So I would typically say that if it depends on the demands of your project or what the athlete goals are. If your goals are on semi-vertical terrain, so slightly overhanging, semi-overhanging, said that confusing, and you need smaller holds, then I would use another wall and practice grabbing onto smaller holds and then alternating that with a day where you do steeper holds. If you don't have any specific projects, I would say steeper walls are going to be better because it automatically increases the intensity. But try and find an intensity that allows you to get to the top of the wall every set. So that set was first move kind of hard, second move kind of hard, third move kind of hard, fourth move hard, fifth move kind of a chill move. That move was easy, that move was hard, that move was hard, that move was hard. So you can kind of auto-regulate, so it takes a bit of understanding of the wall. This is why home walls work well, because you understand the holds and you kind of know which ones to choose from. Or system boards work well. Tension board, grasshopper board are two that I've climbed on the most. But people can do this on a moon board, kilter board as well. The kilter board holds tend to be a lot of the same. And so does, I guess, all the boards in that sense. But yeah, you want to make sure you understand the holds pretty well. So let's look at this one. So you can tell I'm working harder with that set. So here's our last set. Let's look at this one because it's going to be cleaner. Big, fast drop. Notice how it's faster drop than that one because the start move was harder. Now it's taking me a bit to recover. So that one I got quite a bit in a bigger deficit than I have so far. And then I had this slow recovery point. So you can see here, if I was to do some jogging or another thing that would increase my heart rate, I can get that to happen faster. But you can kind of get a sense of it. So for me, it's looking like my recovery time frame is about like minute and 30 seconds, so 90 seconds of time until I'm getting back on the wall. So like a lot of times when I do this and I measure those sets, I measure my workout and I do like a strict 3-minute rest, or if I pay attention to that and I do it when that says I'm recovered, my oxygen says I'm recovered, I get the same amount of volume done, but I have a faster workout. So again, remember, if you're doing this in a strength training phase, the intention is to get coordination grabbing onto small holds. And we're going to get some recruitment, and we're going to get some coordination, and we're going to get some passive tension. But I would consider this more of a coordination and hypertrophy protocol than anything else. So that will also build strength. But the goals are really to keep the intensity kind of at a hard level, and then end when your fingers are tired. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the fifth set. We'll do a 6th set. We'll probably do like 10, maybe 12 sets. But at that time, my ability to produce force will go down. So the times that I've measured it, if I strictly rest 3 minutes, or if I rest, like this tells me, I do the same number of sets that are the same quality. So I don't think there's a real good reason to build a ton more sets in a strength training phase. I think that will naturally happen where I haven't been doing this a lot. So I would consider myself not conditioned for this. My fingers don't feel really strong right now. But after I do this for like 2 weeks, maybe 6 to 8 sessions, they will feel really strong. So for the sake of not cluttering up the Instagram account, I probably won't shoot another video, but maybe I'll do an Instagram live and just delete it. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, pre-plan, all right. Plan that out. Silly goat hold is nasty. Hot. What? That one's harder at the top than at the bottom in terms of the grips. So I did that on purpose. The bottom moves were kind of not as nasty, but this middle silly goat hold is nasty. The tension hold, the silly goat, the top part was really hard. So this one you can see now I'm getting more tired. Obviously you can hear it in my breathing, but if we look at the graphs, this one drops really quickly. So what we'll notice over time is I won't recover to the same level that I originally started from. So slowly what we'll see over time is we will see that I'm not able, as soon as I get pumped and fatigued here, I have a limit, my current capacity today. As soon as I reach that, I'm not going to be able to hit that same percentage, let's say baseline where I started for oxygen availability, and I will get sub-recovery. So as soon as I sub-recover, then I need to end my session, because continuing to train, I would still be able to do sets, but those sets wouldn't be very high quality, because one of the things that we know influences performance and coordination is metabolite accumulation. Because as soon as I build metabolites, you could tell at the top, I kind of lunged for that last hold because I was pumped. As soon as I start building metabolites, my perception of effort elevates, which means the set is going to feel harder than it is, really, because I have those metabolites. And so when the sets feel really hard, because of only perception, that will actually reduce my recruitment levels, or it won't elevate them and increase my coordination as well, because I'm going to be kind of using a motor pattern that's not going to be optimal. And that sounds confusing for sure. I think I said it correctly, but it definitely sounded confusing coming out of my mouth. So that's something to pay attention to. So ultimately what that means is, like I can tell now, I think we're 6 sets in. That was the 6th set. I could probably do 4 more sets that are really good quality, and then my session will be done. And so that's a really short session. So typically when I'm not talking on the camera, I will be doing like lifting sets between. You could do a deadlifting set between this. You could do a bench pressing set between this. You could do a pull-up set between this. You could do things between this, because this is mostly intention on my fingers. So I don't really feel it in my chest or my hips or anywhere. I feel this in my forearm flexors here. So the forearms are the things that are tolerating the most physiologic stress in this example. So let's see how my recovery looks. Recovery looks pretty good. I'm gonna rest a little bit longer though. I wanna try hard on this set. So having a, I'll shoot another video here in the future. It's hard to shoot capacity videos because I'm not training for capacity right now, and so it will kind of wreck me. But I'll shoot a video soon with these on doing a capacity workout. And so if I'm going to use this methodology and I want to build capacity, it's best to have symmetric holds. So what I'll do is I'll use my campus board, or I kind of flipped them a little bit here because I'm not testing anyone today. But typically I have these holds are symmetric. So there's a lot of symmetry on this wall for the sake of a lot of the climbers that I test are really strong. They need a steeper wall. And so having the symmetric holds to do capacity makes the most sense. And then you can use this same drill where you're just being slow and deliberate with your fingers, and you're gonna make the hards a little bit easier, but you're just gonna go to failure. So here I'm not going to failure. I could make a few more moves. This particular drill is about coordinating on small holds and creating tension. The capacity drill would be, I gotta take the intensity down a little bit, maybe to 65, 70%, and I wanna travel as far as I possibly can every set. So I'll shoot that video in the coming weeks. Okay, so let's do another set. Looks recovered to me. Okay, let's do this really hard. This is a really hard start move. Let's try this. Use a pinch. Oh, that was really hard. Back step, bud. That was ugly. Hot and on some cramps. Oh! As you can tell, that was way harder than any of the others. I included the first start move, which is a little bit too powerful than what we're going for. Still fine, I think. But notice when I hit that hold, I tried to use a good foot so I could control the move out to here. And this holds pretty good. Then the tension pinch, the silly goat pinch, those are both pretty hard at 45 degrees. And then this thing is really hard. So that full crimp, that's probably a 15 mil, but with like a in cut to it. But it kind of sticks out, so it's kind of rounded. To the orange was really hard. And the Gaston move was pretty cool. And then finished on 2 really small crimps. So, graph here shows fastest decline. Let me give you a quick show of that, because the first move was really hard. So here, if we look at this one here, steepest rate of change there to that same low level, and then slowly getting back, where I'm still recovering pretty well. So we can maybe swing 3, 6, 7, maybe swing 3 more sets. What else can I tell you? A lot of times it'll take a little planning to do, like I'm doing this on the fly because I know my wall well. If you try and do this on a wall that you're unfamiliar with, make sure you actually set a problem, during the break. So maybe we can do that now. During the break, say we'll start on this pinch, because this pinch sucks, and this tension side pull. So let's start on those, and let's go to this tension pinch here. Then let's do another side pull move, and let's go to this silly goat pocket. Then let's go to that tension pinch. Let's go to the ball. Let's go to the orange. Let's go to the tension again, and then see if we can top out there. So what you'll need to do between sets is actually kind of pre-plan where you're going to grab, just so you kind of have a direction, you kind of have an idea. If you don't do that, you'll find this really inefficient, and you'll be either grabbing really big holds or you'll be falling all the time. But as you can tell on my wall, like I'm very familiar with the holds, but I'm getting to the top every time. So I think the important part is the intention is to make it really hard on your fingers with hard grips. But even if I have to make an easy one in the middle because I'm really tired, that's okay, in my opinion. It's kind of like, if you were doing a fingerboard repeater set and you were trying to do 5 reps, but at the 3rd rep you're feeling really tired, you can't really take the weight off the body to keep continuing doing your repeaters. You just keep doing them, but that can be a little bit risky. So I usually tell people, if you feel like you need to put an easier hold in there for a brief recovery, that's totally fine. But I like the idea of people trying to pre-plan their sets a little bit. That one's going to be hard, so I'm probably going to brush those holds so I don't fall and miss the pad. That would be tragic. So shout out to Silly Goat. Again, Steve from Silly Goat, that dude is cool as hell. So if you want someone, just a nice person to follow and support his business, he's a really cool dude, and he helps me out a lot with stuff. So let's see, there, and I forgot where I was gonna go. See, I already forgot. Oh, this one, because it's not far away, right? I was looking further away, like, oh, it's gotta be far. This hold, this hold, this hold, that's barely a hand move, which is fine. And then this hole is gonna be a little bit bigger because the pocket sucks. So we go, oof, pocket's hard. The tension's gonna be hard. The ball is pretty big, I like those. Crimp, big pinch, which is hard, and then we'll see what the top looks like. So let's try that. Feel pretty recovered. So my subjective sense is that I'm recovered, and my physiologic sense is that I'm recovered. So that one was actually easier than I thought until I grabbed that Silly Goat crimp. So I think Steve was messing with me or thinking I was more legit than I am when he sent me those, because he had a approximate wall angle to put them on, and he put that on the 45, but that is like a 12 mil in-cut crimp. That's sharp only on one side. So even with big feet, accessing that hold is so hard. But I have not been able to access it if I'm actually using smaller feet and climbing a problem. So it got pretty easy until then. But I wanted to finish the set, so my last bit was a little bit desperate, but I chose that bigger hold to top out. So the bottom part was actually pretty easy though. So let's make another one that's not so easy. So let's rep some nature climbing holds. So let's do a granite set. Let's go from a tension, which everyone knows, granite hold. We'll pop to this one, which will be hard. This hold's hard. Hard hold, hard granite hold, match on this granite hold. Ooh, dang, that was hard. And then maybe granite. So we'll try and do a granite set. So I'll need to rest long for this one. That looks hard. The bottom part looks pretty reasonable, but the top part, the middle section looks really hard. So that one was not as long of a set as the other ones either. So I don't need as much recovery. I got up the wall pretty quick. I think I got desperate at the top. That is 3, 6, 8 sets. So I'll probably do 2 more and cut the video off. I think at this point everyone gets the point. So this is kind of what those, coordination, on the wall, strength sessions look like. For athletes that climb pockets, so for one of my clients who lives in Lander now and also lives in Arizona, forget this town name where Pre-Straw is. The name of the city is not coming to me, but there's lots of pockets and roofs. Same place that another client lives. I have quite a few clients there. But what you could do, what I had him do, was I had him do a drill like this where there's way more pockets. As you can tell, with the exception of this pocket, I'm not grabbing that many pockets. And that really is a consequence of the granite bouldering where I am, there's very few pockets. And I don't sport climb in Lander or Wild Iris, so I'm not ever grabbing pockets. If you are someone that uses pockets though, you absolutely have to introduce pockets in a slow controlled way, because the difference between a 4-finger effort and pulling really hard and gaining recruitment and a 2-finger effort on a wall is the 2-finger effort is all coordination. So if we think about training pockets on a fingerboard, you're not getting stronger on pockets. You're getting more coordinated at using less than 4 fingers, because the muscles that attach to the fingers, the same muscle, belly, attaches to the 4 fingers, and then the thumb has its own muscles. And so one of the really maybe questionable things that climbers do regularly is train single fingers or monos or pockets on a fingerboard. That's not necessarily a bad idea for capacity, but the adaptations that you're getting are coordination. So getting coordinated at body weight on pockets is probably plenty of intensity for most athletes, but you're going to be better off getting coordinated, working the body positions, doing fronts, doing middles, doing drags on the climbing wall. But my wall is not set up to do that because I don't have that many pockets. So as an FYI, I would have more pockets. This thing's a really shallow pocket. So this is that's more like a flat edge, where the pockets, I think there's one over here that's like a strict 2-finger, but I don't ever touch it really. But some of the pockets that we had Joel using he has some big sinker pockets, because they get a lot of that in Pre-Straw. All right, so I'm recovered. Let's try this nature climbing set. It looks hard. This move looks really hard. See if I can swing. All right. Getting a little desperate at the top. That set was sick though. Let's go. Now I'm breathing hard. That set felt really good though. So those holds are so cool. So these ones have, maybe I'll kind of tour you around after when I'm done, but these have that's probably a 15 mil in-cut crimp with all granite edge, but the edge isn't flat. So grabbing onto these wooden holds and the edge is flat, you're not getting that same roughness and that same kind of bite and pain that you get with the granite holds, obviously. But that was a really sick set. This move is easy. This move was hard. This thing is probably a 20 mil in cut granite hold. The match is really good. This one's got some sharpness to it. And then I just switch a finger, granite, granite. That was probably my favorite set so far. So I'll do one more granite set going this way, and then we'll call it good, and I'll show you some holds on the wall. Maybe one other thing, the pinches, maybe I'll shoot another video with the body, what I call the body tension climbing drill. And so I've kind of moved a bunch of my holds around recently, but typically what I'll do is I'll kind of create some trajectories or having more pinches or identify them when I'm off the wall and do pinch only sets. So most of what I'm doing right now is full crimping things. And I've grabbed a few pinches, but a lot of times if I'm going on, the season's coming close and I need to work on like grabbing things and open-handed things and pinching things, I'll do sets where I only grab pinches. That for me takes a little bit more pre-planning because I'm usually doing the crimp stuff because my pinch strength is naturally pretty good. Where a pinch example would be maybe this and this, pinch hold, this open-handed, black pinch, this hold, maybe crossover, pinch match, pinch out. So like you can tell that I don't have tons of pinches on here right now, so it would be like kind of a more challenging and a more less hanging on your fingers and doing coordination as like doing more technical climbing movements, which is okay as well. But for people that have access to a tension board, at least the OG tension board, I have not used the new one. I'm not really familiar with the hold setup, but the old one is really good to do this drill on because you could find, and the grasshopper board has a lot of pinches too, you can find kind of a path that has lots of pinches. And what you can do is you can kick the board back and make it harder. So the lack of variety can be, I guess, not negated, but the lack of variety is not a big deal because you can just make the wall steeper. So you could do the same 2 or 3 pinch circuits that you have kind of dialed that you can do slow and controlled and then kick that thing back. So my recovery now is like hitting it's definitely not going above where we started, but it's definitely ending, definitely dropping to show that I'm not recovering as well. Let me show you. It's pretty subtle. I'll shoot. Close the app. Hopefully that didn't die. Okay. So it's hard to appreciate numbers wise. But if we look graph wise here, I was at like 75, 80 here, and now I'm within the 60 range again. So it went up because my heart got increased, but I was trying hard, and then come back down. Now I'm kind of recovering as well. But what you'll notice if we let this run is I'm not going to go back up. Like the local oxygen saturation is going to be in the, let's say, 80% range for me until I do 30 minutes of nothing. So the time frame to get clearance to my local capillary beds, it does not take very long. So as I mentioned, this session will be short. It's been 40 minutes. And that's probably plenty long of a session for me. I could do the exact same session later in the day. So because you want your sessions to be short and efficient, and I work 10 steps from here, I can work today and then later in the day put on my shoes and climb again, right? So you have that option as well to do more coordination, strength training sessions. And my feet hurt though, because I haven't taken my shoes off. But normally I would, obviously. So let's do the last set. Let me see where I want to go. Let's go granite to the start. Let's go granite, 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 granite. Ooh, maybe I'll go this way. So granite, 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 granite. That move might be a little sketchy and big, but let's try it. Might be a little bigger than I want for this drill, but I want to try and make an all granite move problem. Well, that's bigger than I wanted. It's a non-granite hold, but I've gotten fucking off path. So that was actually a bad example because I was trying to stress going this because I wanted to use this hold really bad. So that was an inefficient way. So that ruined a set though. So that was kind of a bad set. But we'll wait. We'll got to end on a good one. Let me rest shorter because that only shows a slight decrease. Let's do one more for the sake of ending on a good note. So the other thing you can do with these that's really cool is you can measure recovery. So a lot of times when we're measuring their capacity and they're going on a trip or preparing for a local trip and we're close to the season, we can use these to measure oxygen recovery. So the question is like, is this better? Is this better? Is this better? Is this better? You can measure all those things with these monitors. And so it's going to be kind of individual. There's not like a, this is the best for everyone, where a lot of bouldering athletes are bouldering athletes because they're probably not as efficient at sport climbing just naturally because they get bigger muscles. Just naturally, that's a genetic thing, but big muscles will, when they get pumped, create more diameter change, cross-sectional area, and will create more compression on the blood vessels. So it's very cool to see people do high intensity, higher volume training sets with these on, and you can be very precise with the recommendations for recovery as well as, we're doing interset recovery, but you could do intraset recovery too if someone's trying to like shake out or find a position that works best for them. So let's stay here because I want to use that hold. That hold hurts. Nice and painful for your Wednesday pain threshold. Let's go there. Let's go to the orange one. Okay. Use a couple nature holds for this set. Oh yeah, that sucker hurts. So, if you watch this whole thing, it's very obvious that I'm tired. That set had the least amount of coordination of the other sets.